I'm standing in Waymouth Street in Adelaide, in the heart of the city. Behind me is the former NCA office building, the site of the 1994 NCA bombing. Just 3 days ago, Dominic Perry was convicted of the NCA bombing, which murdered Detective-Sergeant Geoffrey Bowen and critically injured lawyer Peter Wallis. It had taken 28 years to secure a conviction for the NCA bombing. So I thought I'd come here and show you the location of where the NCA bombing happened in 1994. A little bit of background information. The NCA was the National Crime Authority, which was established in 1984 and was abandoned in 2002. In August 1993, a $20 million cannabis crop was discovered at a place called Hidden Valley in the Northern Territory, which led the NCA police to Dominic Perry here in Adelaide. In September 1993, Dominic Perry was arrested with connection to the drug charges. I'm not exactly sure what the charges were, but had something to do with the crop of cannabis found in the Northern Territory near Darwin. And Perry came into contact with Detective-Sergeant Geoffrey Bowen. And of course that confrontation between Perry and Detective Bowen led here to Waymouth Street. I'm on Waymouth Street at the site of the NCA bombing, and this is the building where the bombing occurred. Now, incredibly, the building, as far as I can tell, hasn't changed in 28 years. The facade, the interiors I've no idea, but the facade looks very much as it did 28 years ago. It is number 4244 Waymouth Street. Now, the bombing occurred on the very top floor, the 12th floor. In that corner window, I'll just get in, it's hard to get from here, but in that corner window, that's the eastern corner window of the 12th floor. It was Wednesday morning, March the 2nd, 1994, at 9:15 a.m. when Detective-Sergeant Geoffrey Bowen received a package via the mail addressed to him. He was actually suspicious of the package and took it into the office of lawyer Peter Wallis. The two were working on the drug crop case, and he took it into Peter Wallis's office and opened it with a pair of scissors, and of course the package exploded in that office building right there. The explosion killed Detective Bowen and critically injured lawyer Peter Wallis, who suffered severe burns and also the loss of an eye. Now, when the package had arrived that morning, because it was a little suspicious and apparently Detective Bowen wasn't expecting anything, the security officer actually waved a metal wand over it, a metal detector wand, and but obviously nothing untoward appeared or was indicated, so they proceeded to open it with fatal results. But that happened right here on Waymouth Street. This is the entrance to the building. In 1994, the building was predominantly I think the credit union office, but obviously the NCA had an office on the very top floor. It's a 12-story building, as you can see. Now when the explosion occurred, all this area here on the footpath was showered with glass. Amazingly, no one was injured here on the footpath. As I said, the shower of glass would have rained down from there, and there was all kind of debris blown into Waymouth Street. Glass and pieces of the office. And also, terribly, apparently pieces of flesh from Detective Bowen were also blown out here into Waymouth Street. So this whole area here would have been showered with glass and debris from the 12th floor explosion on Wednesday, March the 2nd, 1994. I'm in Grote Street, Adelaide. This is 2 streets south of Waymouth Street. Now, on the morning of the bombing, Wednesday, March 2nd, 1994, police had Dominic Perry under surveillance. And a few hours after the bombing, some 3 hours later apparently, Perry drove in here into the city and into Grote Street. He visited a store, I believe it was called Hubbard's, I think. I think it was a discount store, but it's no longer there, but I think it was in that vicinity over there. After he left that store, he drove east along Grote Street here, which is in front of the Adelaide City Markets, and then he drove into Pitt Street, a side street that separates Grote Street from Franklin Street. So he would have driven here into Pitt Street, this is Pitt Street, and he drove to a car park here on Pitt Street. So Perry drove from Grote Street, that corner there, here into Pitt Street, and he drove into this car park. As I said, that's Franklin Street just ahead of me, and 1 street over north is Waymouth Street, scene of the bombing. This is the car park that Dominic Perry drove into, which again pretty much looks as it did in 1994. I'm on the car park roof of the Pitt Street car park, where Dominic Perry drove onto several hours, 3 hours I think it was, after the NCA bombing of 1994. Police observed him park his car up here. And you may ask why? Well, incredibly, from this vantage point you can see the Waymouth Street building where the bombing occurred, and that is it right there. You can just see the 2 top floors. That is the Waymouth Street building, and it is in there, right on that right hand corner of the 12th top floor, the eastern side, is where the bomb went off. So Perry, observed by police who had him under surveillance, saw him up here on the Pitt Street car park, where he could observe the after effects of the bombing. I think the speculation is that he heard the bombing had occurred on either radio or TV that morning and drove into the city, perhaps to see its after effects. This is the Pitt Street car park. If we move along a bit, I said, you can see the... Now, I'm just having a look here. This building here, well, this is a car park on Franklin Street. This building I'm looking at here. Now, I don't think that was there in 1994. I'm not sure. So Perry's view may have been... He may have seen more of the building in Waymouth Street than this. I'm not 100% sure. It's the first time I've ever been up here. But that is a car park that is on Franklin Street. And yes, that just does obscure the Waymouth Street building. Though even today, as I said, you can still see the top floors. Though the closer I walk towards the Franklin Street side, the more my view is obscured. It's a Sunday at the moment, that's why I've come up here now, so it's nice and empty. But I've actually come to the side of the Pitt Street car park that overlooks Franklin Street. Let's have a bit of a look down into the street. A hell of a view up here, actually. This is Franklin Street in Adelaide. If I look east, that's King William Street where that bus is. But this is Franklin Street. Waymouth Street is one street over that way to the north. That's looking west along Franklin Street. Now I'm just looking at this. See, as we see, this is a car park here. And as I'm absolutely positive that wasn't here in 94, but beside it is a much older building. And that would have been here in 94, and it's, you know, about the same height, so I guess from this vantage point it would have been, Waymouth Street would have been obscured. You can just see the top of the Waymouth Street building there. So from this vantage point I'm sure the Waymouth Street building was obscured. So I pan back inside. This is the car park on Pitt Street where Dominic Perry was observed by police on the morning of the bombing. But he obviously, he would have been in that position somewhere here, probably gone up that little ramp there where it's more elevated. I've actually moved up a bit to an elevated position. There's a ramp that leads up to a bit of a higher spot here on the Pitt Street car park, and this gives me a slightly elevated view of the Waymouth Street building. And I'm looking here, yeah, I think that building to the left, that black building, I know looks like an apartment building or a hotel, sorry. Don't think that was here then. So yeah, that's the view, which I'm sure has been obscured somewhat over the years, but Perry may have come to this part of the car park. But anyway, he was up here definitely, and as I said, as you can see, he clearly saw the building, and you would have seen, let's zoom in and get that, as I said, that's the 12th floor of the Waymouth Street building, and the bombing occurred in that corner window. Now just a bit of information over what's happened in the last 28 years. Dominic Perry was charged actually on March 11th, 1994 with the murder of Detective Bowen and the attempted murder of lawyer Peter Wallis. That was 9 days after the bombing. So Perry was clearly suspect number one after the bombing. On August the 8th, 1994, after a committal hearing, Perry was committed to stand trial for the bombing charges. But then on September the 9th, 1994, the charges were dropped. The exact reasons, I'm not sure. I think the prosecution felt their evidence was not strong enough, so they had to drop the case, and that's where it sort of died for a long time. Though it would periodically pop up in the media, in the news over the years. In September 1999, 5 years after the bombing, a coronial inquest was held here in Adelaide, and the coroner actually declared that he felt, or the evidence felt, that Dominic Perry was responsible for the bombing, but still no criminal charges followed. Then in September 2015, the police launched a task force Cornus, I think it was called, to reinvestigate the bombing and whatever associated links there were. And while that was underway, in June 2017, Dominic Perry was arrested on drug charges, I think unrelated to the bombing, but it certainly brought him back into the media. But then, while I think he was in custody, I'm not sure, but on March the 1st, 2018, Perry was charged once again with the NCA bombing, which had occurred, actually that was 1 day before the 24th anniversary of the bombing. Finally, on January the 18th, 2021, Perry's murder trial began here in Adelaide. And then, as I said, just 3 days ago, on June the 30th, 2022, Dominic Perry was convicted of the murder of Detective-Sergeant Geoffrey Bowen and attempted murder of lawyer Peter Wallis. And as I record this, he awaits sentencing. So it's been an incredible journey from that sunny summer morning in 1994, right there in that building. The bomb blew out that window, killed Detective Bowen and injured lawyer Peter Wallis. So, as you can see, it does offer a hell of a view as I stand on the car park roof of the Pitt Street car park here in Adelaide.